Hi guys! Welcome to my vlog. So ito na naman po ako, ang inyong lingkod, Arjon Ganoza. So for today's video, I will share my midterm reflection. So sa mga hindi pa pala nakapanood ng aking bagong video yung in-upload, panoorin nyo na po kasi marami po kayong matutunan at malalaman sa ating kasaysayan noon. So before we will start, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you are updated to my latest video. So let's start. In this video, I will share 10 topics of midterm reflection. The first topic I will share is all about the act of declaration of Philippine independence. So the declaration describes the successful revolutionary movement and the battle our citizens fought to win our independence. So the Declaration of Independence is one of the most significant moments in Philippine history. Documents sought to proclaim the sovereignty and independence of the Philippines from colonial rule of the Spanish Empire. As a students, it enables us to remember and embrace their basic rights as a people and the basic principles by which our society has been recognized. So the Declaration of Independence is one of the most important milestones in the Philippine history. Imagine achieving your freedom after all the hardships you've been through. The proclamation tells us the victorious revolutionary movement and the struggle our country meant to achieve our independence. There were also events that stated that were considered as the decisive movements that sparked our movement against the colonial rule of Spain. Tradition's independence of the Philippines was a mighty feat. So on Independence Day, the sacrifices of the national heroes are remembered. So the country's sovereignty is appreciated, instilling nationalism in the citizens as well as celebrating the culture and tradition of its people. So it is an act to provide for the complete independence of the Philippine Islands, to provide for adoption of a constitution and a form of government for Philippine Islands and for other purposes. The second topic I will share is all about the 1899 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, Malolos Convention. So the first Philippine Republic, which existed from 1899 to 1901, is created and enacted the Malolos Constitution in 1899, making it the first Republican Constitution in Asia. So the Constitution of the Philippines placed restriction on the chief executives and strict freedom of action, which would have slowed down decision making during the American occupation. So the Philippines was governed by American law during this time. So the Constitution especially provided for safeguards against abuses and enumerated the national individual right of everyone, not just Filipinos but also the foreigners. As a youth, we are all have a freedom, especially to study at school, to have freedom of what we are happy. So the right to decide for ourselves belongs to us. So this right gives us the flexibility to grow as a people, maintain our culture, and maintain our sense of national identity. The Philippine Independence Day serves as a powerful reminder to us of the selfless sacrifices made by our heroes to secure our freedom. We should take this opportunity to consider the values they instilled in us and how we can live our lives to uphold them. We have the right to exercise our freedom as we see fit. However, this is only correct as long as it respects the personal space and the right of others. Freedom is not a life spent without care or want or grief, but rather the ability to experience and learn from these things as we rise above the stronger. As a Filipino, I would also fight for our independence as what did by our fellow Filipino. We have a right to use our freedom at our will, but this is right only till it does not intrude into another person's space or privacy. But at the same time, we should be careful that this should not hurt the sentiments of others. So the third topic that I will share is all about the Treaty of Peace between the United States of America and the Kingdom of Spain Treaty of Paris. So this is all about, so it was the first agreement reached between the two governments, the United States of America and the Kingdom of Spain. With the exception of a few small territories, the Spanish Empire came to an end with the Treaty of Paris. Treaty of Peace between the United States of America and the Kingdom of Spain, Treaty of Paris, signed in Paris on December 10, 1898. A proclamation, Spain renounces all claim to sovereignty over and title to Cuba. So the United States will pay to Spain the sum of $20 million within 3 months after exchange of the ratification of the present treaty. For me, what was agreed upon the United States and Spain is the reason why there will be peace in our country, and also because by the treaty, the war was ended. As a Filipino, I thought it was a good way to make the Philippines have a good life without any foreigners occupying it. The fourth topic I will share is all about the Jose Rizal's retraction controversy. So, the ability to conceal, deny, or fabricate an event that did not actually happen while deceiving others is a power that the people may possess. So the retraction letter purportedly signed by Dr. Jose Rizal, which contained an apology for his actions against the church, has become a popular topic of debate among the populace. So academicians and Catholics disagree on whether the letter is genuine or a fake. So the reader must decide if Rizal actually recanted. Otherwise, there is no way to know. As a youth, I am disagree of what they did on Rizal, because it is unlikely that any amount of evidence will be able to persuade the two opposing sides to agree. In myself, I'm not sure which side to support, because if Rizal did In myself, I'm not sure which side to support, because if Rizal did retract, it would seem that his fight had been in vain. However, who knows what he really did? Perhaps he did it simply for the sake of peace in last moments of his life. As I read about this matter online, some of the comments so suggested that if you didn't think Rizal had recanted, you would want to consider converting to a different religion other than Roman Catholic. When I read this comment, I had the following thought: you don't actually have to accept it. What came to my mind after reading this reply was that you don't actually have to believe that Rizal may not have retracted. You simply have to accept the possibility that he either didn't withdraw at all or that he did retract. In my opinion, it didn't change the fact that his writings inspired the Filipino people to fight for their rights and against those who oppressed them. In my opinion, it didn't change that the fact his writing inspired the Filipino people to fight for their rights and against those who oppressed them. His writings sparked a sense of nationalism and patriotism in them that motivated them to defend their own land and their own people. Whether or not Rizal retracted, his role in the Filipino Revolution to liberate the nation, grant the people the freedom they long for, and ensure a bright future for future generations cannot be denied. So even if Rizal were to recant, the contribution of his works would ensure that he would always be regarded as a hero by the Filipino people. The fifth topic I will share is all about the convention between the United States of America and Great Britain delimiting the boundary between the Philippines archipelago and the state of Borneo, 1930. Agreement between the United States and Great Britain, so they agreed that the all island to the north and east of the said line and all islands and rock traversed by the said line, should there be any site, should belong to the Philippine archipelago. All island to the south and west of the said line should belong to the state of North. Security cooperation has been a hallmark despite evolving dynamics in the bilateral relationships, including a U.S. colonial legacy that continues to cast a long shadow for many Filipinos. while continuous politics and domestic limitation present a potential constraint on the upward trajectory of the alliance relationship. There are indications that this expanded engagement can continue beyond the Aquino administration. So the paper examines the condition of Philippine forces under President Aquino. So the next topic I will share is all about the President Emilio Aguinaldo Declaration of War on the United States. It against the Spanish colonial administration in the Philippines. Emilio Aguinaldo led a revolutionary movement. After the United States declared war on Spain, Aguinaldo saw a chance for the Philippines to gain independence. The United States hoped instead that Aguinaldo would lend his troops to its effort against Spain. He cooperated with the United States during the Spanish-American War, but later turned against it and led a guerrilla campaign against American authorities during the Philippine-American War. As what I observed, Filipino World War II veterans were denied benefits of declaration of war. The Philippines gained independence. And after decades of struggle, Filipinos in the United States were able to acquire naturalization papers that allowed them to vote and own property. So the Philippines had suffered a great deal of casualties and significant physical destruction by the time that war was over. The Philippines will once more commemorate Independence Day on June 12. It might be prudent to consider the origins and importance of celebrating such a day in the wake of a continuous presidential election, a deadly worldwide epidemic, and uncertain economic and geopolitical circumstances. We could become better prepared to navigate divided and uncertain futures by looking into the circumstances that lead to June 12 becoming the official Philippine Independence Day, as well as the intended purpose of national holidays as a whole. As a youth, I would also fight for our independence as what did by our Filipino people. After all of your struggles, pictures yourself finally being free. The declarations describes the successful revolutionary movement and the battle our citizens fought to win our independence. Additionally, there were several incidents that were cited as the turning points in our campaign against Spanish colonial control. On Independence Day, the sacrifices of the nation's heroes are remembered. The sovereignty of the country is appreciated. Nationalism is instilled in the populace, and the culture and traditions of its people are celebrated. The Commonwealth of the Philippines Constitution established a presidential system of government with a unicameral legislature as the result of efforts to establish a clear timeline for the termination of American authority over the Philippines. The Commonwealth Act No. 34, it is an act to provide for the holding of plebiscite on the questions of women's suffrage. It is proclaiming a total emergency due to the conflict involving the Philippines and empowering the President to issue directives to address the situation. As a youth, this Commonwealth is a big help for me because it will protect me from crime scene. Completing the racial exclusion of Asians, Congress imposed immigration restriction on Filipinos by granting the Philippines eventual independence. Previously, Filipinos could immigrate freely as U.S. An act of Congress that established the process for the Philippines, then an American territory, to become an independent country after a 10 years transition period. A constitution is important because it ensures that those who make decisions on behalf of the public fairly represent public opinion. It also sets out the ways in which those who exercises power may be held accountable to the people they serve. We emphasize the importance of fostering tolerance, respect, understanding, moderation, and religious freedom, which are necessary for the development of free and democratic societies and we remind everyone that upholding the dignity of every one human being is essential to fostering peace and prosperity. Through policy advocacy, technical assistance including toolkits and frameworks, and its strategic partnership, the Secretary works closely with member countries and partners to strengthen educational systems. The ninth topic I will share is all about the 1943 Constitution. It is made clear that the 1943 Constitution called for a type of authoritarian dictatorship rather than a democratic government. The United States government and the Philippine Commonwealth government in exile ignored it. The Preparatory Commission for Independence drafted a constitution that was only recognized as valid and blending in the areas of the Philippines that were under Japanese control. The Constitution enables students to remember and embrace their basic rights as a people and the basic principles by which our society has been organized. The 1943 Constitution lists the responsibilities and rights of citizens, mandates that Tagalog be developed as the national tongue, and states that a new constitution must be drafted and approved within a year of the end of the Great East Asia War or World War II. So the Filipino people, pleading with the divine providence for guidance and desiring to live in freedom, hereby proclaim their independence. Constitution includes provisions pertaining to the roles and responsibilities of the government, the interactions between the government and the populace, and the rights and obligations of the populace. As a result, society is kept orderly, the government is held accountable, and the populace is made aware that they are the owners of the government. A state's constitution is a crucial piece of legislation in order to keep and uphold peace and order in the societies. The state will fall into turmoil without this. So the last topic I will share is all about the evolution of Filipino nationalism in 1810 and 1912. Filipino nationalism began with a rise in patriotic sentiments and nationalistic ideals in the 1818s Philippines as a result of more than 3 centuries of Spanish colonial rule. So the Creoles, who now identify as Filipinos, were the originators of this sense of national consciousness. 3 causes led to its development: the economies, education, and the secularization of parishes. These elements had a role in the development of Filipino nationalism, which highlighted the Hispanism of all the ethnic groups making up the imperial cosmopolitan society and conceived of the colonies and the home country as one. The fundamental idea of nationalism was unity and affiliation with a global and imperial Spanish society. As a student, nationalism will give me a sense of identity as students, and teaching patriotism in the classroom will aid pupils in developing a sense of self. It will give kids a sense of belonging in their nation. The pupils have the opportunity to realize that they have a social function. It fosters the growth of the pupils' character. Nationalism is the unwavering love we have for our country and the act of the supporting and flying our flag to show that we are citizens of a particular location. By having faith in what the Philippines as a nation is capable, for we can support, acknowledge, and be proud of the ethnicity and culture that it symbolizes. I was born and raised in the Philippines, where I have witnessed changes in the people's attitudes, customs, cultures, and worldview over the years. The modernity of the world is spreading as it is constantly changing, although the majority of us have already forgotten about it. Each of us has a duty and responsibility to fulfill even when things change. There are still ways to respect and love for our country when strangers try to humiliate or intimidate us. We Filipinos have trait of being unable to tolerate it. It foils our range and inspires us to fight for our nation. We may make fun of any circumstances, but when we feel degraded, that's when we fight and band together to avoid letting them drag us down. In our nation, nationalism has a long history. There have been times in our fight to liberation when our people were motivated by a strong nationalist impulses, and other times when it seemed that nationalism had been abandoned. In addition to having ethics and values, nationalism as a political idea has been supported at various points in time by various societal groups, each of which has projected certain nationalist ideals as their own interests and historical circumstances required.